Welcome to Two Sinners on a Sunday podcast. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm good. How are you, Evans?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Last episode,
Good.
we had fun discussing the recent past president of the Mormon Church.
Yep,
The prophet of the Mormon
the
Church,
prophet of
right?
the Mormon Church.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. And we highlighted a bit of the wishy-washy stories that was said with the plan to validate their position as prophet and prophet's wife, and we found out that it wasn't so all true and honest
hmm
throughout. Although there might be some half truths in it, there was a bit of
Sure.
artistic liberty that was taken with their
Yeah.
storytelling. And just as we know, stories always goes, when you want to validate your position as someone who is chosen by God, you have to
Yeah.
insert the fantastical stories about God in your stories all the time in order to let people
hmm
feel the power that you, so to speak, have, and therefore they need to see you as the prophet chosen by God. Thus, so
hmm
that was very interesting. And thank you very much, Ali, for bringing that information to us. Today, we're going to talk about something within that context, and Ali is going to
Yeah.
take it away for us.
Right. And just to finish, or just to make one other point, it's not unique to Mormonism. This is done
No.
and has been done since the beginning. I mean, even if you look at the life of Jesus Christ, perhaps he was just a preacher, a man wanting to change the world for good. And then after his death, that's when people took possibly the things that he said or stories and made them supernatural and
Mm,
made them bigger to assign to him that mantle that no, he is at this elevated level. And it's no different with what we've discussed with Joseph Smith and now President Nelson, as the prophet of the Mormon Church, he had to put himself on this pedestal where these miraculous things don't just happen to anyone, they happen to the prophet of God. And
mm,
so he had to spin the stories into a way that validated that calling.
mhm.
It's been done all
Yeah.
through time.
And if
And
you are doubting what Ali is saying right now, let me give you a little bit of perspective as to something that you would absolutely agree is totally false. Let me take you back to some African folklore that you would absolutely not give a shit about and think that is absolutely false. There is a character in the Akan tribe that is called Okomfonochi. Now, Okomfonochi is a very important character in the tribal history, as in the installment of the Ashanti chief, the Asantehene, and his golden stool, which was conjured from the heavens by the priest Okomfonoche, who conjured it from the heavens and had a sword who he stuck on the ground, and no one was able to uproot it unless the chosen one. So kind of like King Arthur's mythology a little bit, where you
mm,
have Excalibur.
okay.
So up till today, allegedly, nobody has been able to uproot that sword, and the golden
Oh,
stool that was conjured from heaven is a validation as to how powerful the king of the Ashanti tribe actually is, because he is actually chosen by the gods in the heavens. Now, how did Okonfanoche die? Okonfanoche decided to go to death and get the keys of death back. And Okonfanoche said, I am going to death to get the keys of death back now. When I go, no one should mourn my death, because if you do that, the gates of hell or the gates of death will be locked behind me and I will not be able to return. So Konfanoche marches to death to grab the keys, and then people just could not take it because of how important he was to his tribe, and they mourned inevitably, and now Okonfanoche is stuck behind the gates of death. You don't believe that, right? No, you don't. And Okonfanoche did exist. Did he do all these fantastical things? Probably not. You don't care about this, but the story yet exists, and people find it valuable to tell their children and pass it on to
mm,
generation after generation. So if you don't think that what Ali is saying happens, this is a little bit of African perspective to give to you, to say human beings are just creative at telling stories.
yeah. We
Yeah,
love
we
stories.
love stories. It's fun.
All right, let me tell you another story. Well, this is more of a bio, but now we have a new prophet in the Mormon faith, and his name is Dallin H. Oaks. And I just kind of want to talk a little bit about the man and expose a few things. So I'll start by giving you a brief biography. Dallin H. Oakes was born in 1932, so I believe that makes him about 93 years old. So he's pretty much
Wow.
starting his tenure as the prophet of the Mormon faith around the same time that technically President Nelson began his. So when President Nelson became prophet, he was about 93. So around the same time, they're about the same age
I'm always very curious.
when they began.
I'm always very curious. This fascination with old men in leadership in America, I find it very fascinating. In the president of the United States, it has to be an old man, a white old man. Well, unless Barack Obama broke that trend, he was a young black man. And with presidents of different religious positions, we have religious positions like the Pope has to be someone who is almost croaking to his death, and he's like, "Oh, behold, here's the Pope. He is going to be the Pope forever." It's like, no, he's going to be the Pope for like 5 years. Look at him; he can barely
Yeah.
walk, right? And I find it very intriguing why the prophet of Mormonism seems to be around these ages. I don't know, something about old age and patriarchy that's seemed that there's this fascination around it. The previous prophet was 93 when he
Hmm.
mounted the
Hmm.
stage as the prophet,
Hmm.
and this one is also 93 or around 93 at least,
Yeah.
mounting the prophet, or at least receiving the prophet's mantle.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of like the Pope, I think a lot of in these religious environments, they really think that, first of all, being white must be important, being male must be important, having reached a certain age must come with a certain kind of wisdom. I'm thinking all of these things must be important to all of these environments.
Yeah,
And
true.
I would say that all three of those things actually disqualify you from being a person that I would go to for counsel and advice.
Do they not meet your worthiness interview, Ali?
They wouldn't, because
Okay.
their perspective is so one dimensional. They haven't done the work in really understanding other human people's experiences, at least unless
Hmm.
they've really done that work, spent time with people in different walks of life, then perhaps. But most of them, what I find, have lived very much a white man's life. And so even though they've reached the age of 93 or 103, that's the perspective that they bring to the table.
Hmm.
I don't think it really comes with much more wisdom, you know? It's still the wisdom of a white man.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
the whole idea of patriarchs is what is imaged in the Bible, right? If you read the Bible, you
right.
have all these patriarchs that are pretty much in their very old ages, and this God in the Bible decides to have action time with them, and he's very keen and interested in their lives at that time. And like young people and women are not really seen as main important characters, unless if it's a woman, you are pleasing some man, and if it's a
Hmm.
man, you are being groomed into being his future patriarch. It's very interesting. We have Abraham, we have Isaac, we have Jacob, we have Moses, all these old men in their prime times finally being seen as worthy of this God's intervention. It's just very interesting. Anyway, new
Yeah.
prophet. This is
Yeah.
this is exciting
So
times. Do they have fanfares? Do they have
that's
parties?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. He graduated from the University of Utah and then earned his JD and SJD, which is a doctorate in law, from the University of Chicago. So he himself technically didn't attend the Lord's School at Brigham Young University. He went to the University of Utah.
Oh,
He,
how is he
yeah,
qualified, Ali?
I know, right? He served as a clerk for the U.S. Supreme Court Justice. Earl Warren at the time taught law at the University of Chicago and later worked in Utah law and on the Utah Supreme Court. Okay, so
Okay.
that's kind of his background. He is of a legal mind and very much letter of the law, very severe in
Hmm.
how he gives his addresses and how he speaks. He's just very strict.
You did tell me that a
Mhm.
lot of people who are members of the Mormon Church were nervous with him
Yes.
mounting the position as prophet at some point in the future. Tell me a bit
Yeah.
more about that. I mean, obviously, you've
I
already
want
given
to. Yeah.
us
I'm
an
let me
image
I'll
of
finish his
him.
background and then we'll delve right into that.
No problem.
Um, So in 1971, he became the president of Brigham Young University, and he served until 1980.
Wait,
So
hold
that's
on.
an
That's not
yeah,
his alma
that's
mater.
not his alma
How
mater.
do you become
Yeah.
the president of a school? No, this has to be illegal. That's not allowed. What?
Yeah.
Crime.
Yeah, so he became the president for almost a decade, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he did during that time. And
Okay.
then he was called to be the in the quorum of the 12 apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in 1984, the year I was born. Shout out to anybody else born in 84. And he served as one of the most senior leaders in the church. And he just slowly bid his time as the 12 before him had to pass away in order for him to now be in the
Hmm.
position that he's in, which
Interesting.
just became official in October 2025 when he was announced as the next president of the church. So, yeah.
So
So,
this announcement, sorry, I'm this is a bit of a
no,
tangent.
you're
I
good.
don't know if you know the answer to this, but I am curious how they come about choosing the president.
It really is just seniority. My lifetime, basically, if you're the 12th apostle, you just build until you become the top apostle, and then you're the next one to be
Oh
put
wait,
in.
so there are hierarchies in the 12 apostles? There's like level 12 is like the lowest apostle?
Well, it's just the order of when you were called. So, like, for example,
Ah, okay.
now we have an opening, right?
Right,
Because
right,
President Nelson passed away. So now we
right.
got an opening.
So there are 11
So,
apostles now.
right. So if
Right.
they called
Okay.
me, and well, they would never call me because I'm a
Come
woman
on, Ali, they
and
would call you.
yeah,
Come on, you
sorry.
have a chance.
If they were to call the next person, let's say they call somebody that they'll usually call somebody that maybe is in their early 60s
Okay.
because it might be 20 years or more
Right.
before
Right.
they could even have a chance. And if they encounter health issues or other things, then yeah, they're not going
Mm.
to survive to fulfill that
So
role.
I wonder if people get into the apostles' position with the goal of eventually becoming presidents, because it's quite the challenge, really, to
Hmm.
bide your time if that is your goal, especially when it's decided by some unknown means, maybe through
Yeah.
secret ballot votings by the very small elite group of second anointed people.
That's right.
Right. So,
I don't know who picks. I just know, I mean, generally what they say is that God is the one that's choosing, and then the leadership will call, be that extension of God and say, you've been called of God to serve
very
as one of the
interesting.
12 apostles. And for some people, that is the goal because at least they get all that fanfare as they travel the world and meet the other members of the faith. I mean, they
Mm.
pretty much do get adored and revered. I know that,
Right.
just this last week in Italy, where my family lives, they had one of the 12 just show up, and oh my goodness, the family chat was all about like he just showed up and he held a little meeting with all the youth, and it was so special, and we are so lucky to have him among us, and all these things. And so yeah,
Yeah.
everywhere they go,
It's like a
as long
piece
as
of
they
God. A piece of
yeah.
God is here.
Hmm.
Like a bit of
Yeah.
him is kind of there. They should make a
Yep.
movie about that. They did a movie about choosing how they go about appointing the Pope.
Oh,
It was
cool.
called
Yeah.
Conclave. It was one of my favorite movies that I've seen in a while. I thoroughly loved that movie. It was such a
Ooh,
great movie. I loved it. I think they should do a movie for how they go about choosing the
the
prophets of the
Mormon.
Mormon. I
Yeah.
think I might love it. And see, that's the thing. When it comes to movies,
Of course you would.
I am able to set aside my evil sinner mindset, obviously, and really enjoy how people go about coming up to with these conclusions. So for the first time, we got into kind of like the deep, obviously a bit of artistic liberty has been taken, but still it gave us a bit of an insight as to what possibly might be going on within the papal
Yeah.
Vatican City, how they go about appointing
Hmm.
a pope. It would be really nice to take some artistic liberty to see how the Mormons do it, although everything is secret. So I don't think that would even
Yeah.
happen. But still, it would be nice. So if you're a Mormon watching this, just take that, maybe take this as a feedback to your prophets and your beehive leaders, right? And say, hey, these sinners, they said this really nice thing about us. Yeah, okay, all right. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. That's it. All right.
What I love about movies like that is that even if they take artistic liberties or whatever, they give you a foundation. And
Hmm.
if you choose, you can build off of that. If
Right.
you're interested in that topic, you're going to want to get books and find out, okay, was this all accurate and how does it go on? And you
Right.
educate yourself. And I've done that multiple times. I've watched a movie and just been fascinated by like a concept. I mean,
Mm.
as silly, I mean, it's not silly, but I have five boys and they love cars and racing and all this. And so we watch Ford versus Ferrari and I
Nice.
was very I mean that's not something I would typically be interested in, but I was like, you know what? I kind of want to understand this world and to connect better with my children
Yeah.
and to understand Formula One racing and cars. And I picked up a book on all of that and I read it and I learned a little bit
Wow.
more. Some of it was just like, what? Like once I picked up a book on baseball because I was like, I don't understand this sport
Me
and I
neither.
don't and
Me
I was
neither.
like and I did, and I picked it up and I tried to understand it. And my next door neighbor at the time loved baseball, and I would go to him and I was like, wait, okay, can you dumb this down? Like, this is the one time that I'm gonna allow you to mansplain to me what something is. Could somebody please educate me? But that's kind of it. Like you watch a movie on certain things and hopefully even if it's fictitious or they take a lot of liberties, it empowers you to want to learn more and to,
Yeah. Yeah.
dig a
It
little
would
bit
be good to
deeper.
see. Anyway, that was just a tangent. I was just curious as to
Ah, yes,
how they come up with these
absolutely.
decisions.
And to get to the meat of Elder Oaks and why a lot of people are a little bit concerned with him becoming the prophet of the church is his severity when it comes to laws and rules and obedience, but also just because he has left a legacy of very homophobic thinking and preaching. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. So during his
Okay.
presidency at BYU, he had some very intense ways to go around same-sex relationships. Basically, in the 70s, under his leadership at BYU, he implemented investigations and disciplinary actions targeting students if they were engaging in same-sex romantic feelings or even behavior. So
Mm.
he ordered for dorm room searches, dorm security investigations. He would ask the BYU police to do license plate checks at gay bars and around Salt Lake City. And he
Oh.
also ordered undercover sting advertisements in gay-oriented media to entrap people that were engaging in those romantic or, yeah, in those situations. In 1973, the BYU board approved a policy that allowed students who had repented of homosexual acts and forsaken them to remain at university while still excluding those
Wow.
suspected of ongoing same-sex behavior. So, I mean, it wasn't just him. He obviously had a
Hmm.
board and many people, but having him as the leader, he was known for going out of his way to put down that hammer and
Hmm.
make sure that everybody understood that this was not okay. And after his
Wow.
time at BYU, he even it was reputed that he ordered electric shock aversion therapy for gay students during his presidency, and he has since publicly denied his involvement in all of that, but there have been a lot of anecdotal stories of people that have come out and said, while I was at BYU and while he was serving as president, yeah, they put me through that.
Wow.
And it's not unique to Mormonism. There's a lot of
No,
Christian faith that did these kind of things, or at
of
least
course.
did conversion therapy, and the Mormon Church was among them.
Some
Yeah,
still do.
and absolutely. And
Yeah.
some believe that it actually does work when I think the data shows otherwise. And so this was part of him just being a staunch supporter of heterosexual, heteronormative relationships as the only way to exist in this world.
And from what you say, they were expelling students who were
Oh, yeah.
not necessarily engaging in maybe unapproved actions. Like, oh, obviously, even for heterosexual relationships, it still would be disapproved by the schools. Like, you can't, obviously have public sexual relations in front of people. You can't do all these things that obviously in normal situations would be illegal anyway. This is more extreme. He is looking for people who are demonstrating homosexual behavior, which is vague as hell. It could be
Yeah,
anything: how you dress, how you talk, how
absolutely.
you wear your
Hmm.
hairstyle, what color choice of
Yeah,
clothing you pick. It could be anything. It's so vague that anybody could be suspected, and they were expelled unless they recanted that behavior and
correct.
demonstrated that they have moved on. I wonder what that looks like for someone to actually prove that they no longer have these homosexual tendencies for them to be accepted back again into the school, or at least to avoid being expelled. I can
Yeah.
only imagine how that looks like.
I mean, for anything that even I've been through in the Mormon faith, it really is just a roulette system where whoever is your disciplinarian, it's really up to them to measure.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. While he was an apostle and during this time of leadership, Oakes repeatedly affirmed that the church teaches that gender is an essential characteristic and marriage is between a man and a woman, and it is essential to his eternal plan. And so this is the rhetoric, some of the rhetoric that's a direct quote. And even up until this last general conference where the Mormon faith came out and really doubled down once more
Hmm.
that really marriage is between a man and a woman and there's no ifs, ands, or buts
Of
around
course.
it.
Of course.
In a 2006 interview, he stated, yes, homosexual feelings are controllable. If we
Ah.
cater to the feelings, they increase the power of the temptation. If we yield to the temptation, we have
Hmm.
committed sinful behavior.
Okay. Okay. That is the average conservative position. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in 2015, there was this church policy that I kind of want to spend a little bit of time talking about. I call it a church policy because that's what it's boiling down to, but at the time it was considered revelation.
Hmm.
And what happened was they came out, and that was at the time of President Monson's presidency. But it is believed, again, allegedly, that he was really suffering with stages of dementia at that point. So, really, the two
Oh.
that were the master architects behind this were Oakes and Nelson. So,
Hmm.
Nelson has now passed on, and he was the one that delivered this. I believe it was him. No, maybe it was Monson that they still got him to declare it. And so it was early November of 2015. What happened was that the church came out and basically said that same sex marriage is considered apostasy. And that is considered a formal act of rebellion against God,
Oh.
punishable by excommunication. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm an apostate.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm an apostate because I challenge the church ultimately in the church's eyes, going around and dragging the name of the church in the mud by exposing all these things and everything. So I'm considered an apostate because of that. I have left the Mormon faith, and so that's me. But now what's happening is they're saying if you are not doing any of those things but happen to be in a same-sex relationship or marriage, it's punishable by excommunication. And so children, the policy was, and again, it's not a policy because they over and over stated that this was revelation from God. So the revelation was that children of same sex couples were told that they could not have what's called a baby blessing, which is one of the traditions that happen within the
Hmm.
Mormon faith. They could not be baptized before the age of 18. In Mormonism, you get baptized around the age of 8
8. Yes.
or at the age of 8. That was not going to be allowed. And in order to go on a mission or to have temple rights, you were barred from those things unless one, They would have to reach adulthood. They would have to move out of the home. They would have to formally disavow their parents' marriage. And so basically, the
Wow.
language equated a legal same sex marriage to something spiritually corrupt, a category that is like typically reserved for people who attack or betray the church, like me. Okay,
Wow.
so I'm considered apostate, but I'm actually, like I'm doing these things.
Yes.
They're just existing,
They're just
being and
being.
being in a homosexual relationship.
Mhm.
That's what's going on. Okay.
So
Yeah.
being in a homosexual relationship and obviously being happy about it is the same as leaving the church and, so to speak, dragging the name of the church through the mud by talking about it and exposing them. It's just being that is the same as what, like you say, like you're doing. And also
Yeah.
being a child, you are obviously non-existent until the age of 18. Then you have to betray your parents' relationship existence by disavowing it
Yeah.
in order to be one. So they are actively promoting breaking families. Okay, this religion is not good for humanity. All right.
No.
I mean,
Yeah.
if for all the
I
videos that
know.
we've done, we've not said it once. I'll say it again. Okay.
Exactly. And Oakes in interviews would argue that it was an act of love meant to protect children from conflict between the church's teachings and that of their parents' same-sex
No,
relationships.
no, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's an act of love to protect the
With
children.
his legalistic mind, he would speak of consistency, policy coherence, and eternal law. But to the majority of us, I think it sounded like cold bureaucracy
Mm,
masquerading as divine compassion. And again,
mm.
this thought of love, is it love or is it just obedience? And what is it that God really cares about, According to the Mormon faith,
That's
it's
very
kind of,
interesting. That's very
yeah,
interesting. Like you wonder. I mean, if love is expressed by obedience, then I guess they are interchangeable. Obedience is
yeah,
love.
right.
In a system that demands obedience and
That's
absolute
right.
loyalty, then love is loyalty. I mean, Jesus said, "If you love me, obey my commandments." And God also says in the Old
That's true.
Testament, obedience is better than
Mhm.
sacrifice. So it's quite consistent for
Yeah,
love to be seen
yeah,
as obedience in these religious systems.
that's
It's
right.
unfortunate though.
So when this came out, the reaction of the membership was massive, immediate. The fallout was not good. Basically,
Hmm.
thousands of members resigned in protest, and this was in one of the largest
Oh,
coordinated membership withdrawals in modern church history. So,
interesting.
at least at one November event, it's documented that about 1,500 all resigned at once. And
1,500 like staff.
members,
Is it regular members or
not
like
staff, just regular members like
just
me.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's still
Yeah.
significant though. That is very
Yeah, and that was
significant.
just one event. It
Hmm.
seems like it was, unfortunately, there's not a lot of documentation on that. It was
Okay.
just mainly, it was reported for sure at this one event, 1,500 resigned
Wow.
just right there on the spot. And
Wow.
LGBTQ plus members and families described the policy as spiritual violence. It did trigger a spike in reported depression and suicidality among queer youth and young adults, particularly in Utah. And at this time in Utah, there was already a growing crisis in teen suicide rates. There were
Okay.
schools that were being really hit hard. Now, is there a correlation where we don't, unfortunately, suicide rates and statistics don't calculate the sexuality of the person that takes their lives, and so we
Hmm.
don't know exactly. So I want to preface that the research that I've done, unfortunately, I can't really link it
Okay.
to whether the people that were choosing a lethal method of coping with struggles and this revelation, whether it was because they were gay or not. But
Hmm.
I think what it speaks to is that it goes to show that this was hitting a very vulnerable population, youth that are struggling with figuring themselves out and having or hearing this kind of revelation that's really hard to swallow. Anyway, allies within the church
Hmm.
felt silence to question the brethren
Yeah.
because it would be at a risk of their own standing.
I can imagine how it must feel for members of the LGBTQ who have find themselves to be members of the church in a community that accepts them, or that have been accepting them for this whole time, or they found ways theologically to marry the teachings of the church with their personhood, right, in their identity, and they've maybe found some form of safe haven, maybe with their loved ones who love them and see them as they are and doesn't let their sexual orientation become kind of like a hindrance. Like they found this safe space in this community. I don't know if this is real, by the way. I'm just giving a bit of the doubt. Only to have this person come in and just smash all of that to say, and not only that, just throw this unwelcome spotlight on these people to force not just them but members of the church as well to forcefully remove them, or to actually look at them with critical eye when they don't deserve that kind of treatment. It can be very disoriented. I can only sympathize with that situation because that has to be scary. Now, I'm wondering if there is going to be another reckoning with people walking out because of what might follow with the new prophet, if there's going to be another 1,500 members walking out or something. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to something like that because people sometimes love their children more than they love religion. But hey, who am I? I'm just a guy,
I know. Well, after this all happened, so again, Oakes and all his peers, they continued to refer to this as revelation. The fallout just was so great, and there was so much concerted effort against it that less than 4 years later, in April of 2019, the church quietly reversed the revelation. So this is the time again where God
Wow.
changed his mind about gay people.
Oh, wow. Turn it off.
Yeah. Yep. You got to, Evans. You've got to
Wow.
make any of this make
So,
sense. But
so
yeah.
explain a bit to me. So they reversed
Yeah,
it and
so
night
God,
secretly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so God changed his mind about black people.
Mm-hmm.
But this time it was gay people. All right. Basically, President Nelson, who at this point was now the current prophet,
Mm-hmm.
they basically came out and said that the reversal was another revelation.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay. And that was that same-sex marriage was now downgraded from apostasy, that really hard language,
Mm-hmm.
to a serious transgression.
Oh, a stern letter from
Basically, that's what the handbook is gonna now reflect. And
right, a
basically,
serious
children,
transgression.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
children of LGBTQ plus parents, they could once again
Okay.
they could be baptized with parental consent.
Okay.
Oak's statement at the time avoided apology, and instead he just said the change came because we need to be more understanding. So I guess that was the softest thing that he could say about it.
Oh,
Not
okay.
Oakes is particularly known for a quote where he says the church makes no apologies, and they haven't. Even
Mm,
like with what the consequences with the ban on the priesthood, they've never come out and apologized for the harmful, hurtful, hateful rhetoric towards Black people.
mm-hmm.
So no acknowledgement was made of the harm or even the people that were lost in those 4 years. And for many members, it was just an added salt on the wound. Basically, if both the policy and its reversal were revelation, then revelation had become indistinguishable from damage control.
Mm,
So,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah, PR work. Very
yeah,
interesting how God cares about the time and place of the culture that the church finds themselves in to amend his opinions. It's very interesting. Oh, okay. You are living in a more LGBTQ accepting times now. Oh, okay. I guess
right.
I guess we shouldn't be stoning them and burning them at the stake anymore. Okay. Mm,
Exactly. Exactly. And so, what this showed, I think, is that the institutional priorities are control and conformity over compassion. And then the leadership mindset was that Oakes, again, he speaks in the language of law, not love, policy, not people.
right.
And with the theology, the question that I was considering is, if love can be used to justify exclusion, then what is the moral center of the institution? It
Mm.
seems like, yeah, that obedience
Loyalty.
is, yeah, and
It
that
seems to be,
loyalty.
yeah, it seems to be the on top of the core values of Mormonism,
Yeah.
really, is you have loyalty, obedience, and maybe love is maybe the fourth core value or something.
Yeah. And without recognizing and acknowledging the human cost and the role that he played in this policy, and how he continuously is coming out with these things, and that God's law of marriage has not changed. And that line, more than any, defines his legacy. And I think that's why people are concerned with
Mm.
him now being the prophet of the church, because he has made this his cause, and he has been extremely forceful in his rhetoric. If you
Mm.
listen to him speak, nothing that he says doesn't come with weight. He's not known
Mm.
as a compassionate, loving. I would picture him not as the dad that gets on the floor and plays with his children, but more the disciplinarian. But again, that's me just, my impressions. I
Right,
did
that's your
listen to a
impression.
podcast
Right.
a couple years ago where it was his grandson who was an out gay man, and he talked about his relationship with his grandfather, and how really the fact that he was a gay person
Mm-hmm.
was treated more as a disease, something to be cured of,
Mm.
not loved. And so all of these
Right.
things, I think, kind of just speak to the man. And this
Mm.
is who he is. And this is why people are concerned with him becoming now the prophet.
Yeah, totally understand the panic that will ensue between people who just want to be left alone, really, and just, you know, observe their religious practices and do their rituals and just be allowed to love who they just feel drawn to. But
Yeah.
this is someone who also, I would imagine in his head, feels like someone who wants to do good or is a good person. Now, I've recommended over and over again, maybe when you get a chance, for you to watch The Handmaid's Tale. Now, The Handmaid's Tale, there is a character in there, and her name is Aunt Lydia. Now, Aunt Lydia reminds me of President Oaks, and
Okay.
in to say that she is very by the book, legalistic, very
Mm.
according to the policy, and she strongly believes that the system that she's working in, she finds herself as the leader taking care of these handmaids who are going to be shipped off to the respective families and going to be basically baby making machines to these families, and her responsibility is to train them from strays who were captured to very well behaved handmaids in their dress who speak when they are spoken to, who says the right things, who says the right prayers, and it's her responsibility to train them. So she uses brutal force, but deep down she really genuinely believes that she's a good person. She genuinely believes that she's trying to do the best, not for herself, but for the
Right.
girls. And she
Mm.
believes strongly in the system that as long as the girls will follow what she's saying, they will be protected in quotation marks by the system. And obviously later in the show she finds out that she has been deceived this whole time, but then she goes into that shock factor where she's like, wait, I thought I was doing good, but I was just leading these girls into a system that was just destroying them. But she didn't feel
Mm.
bad for what she was doing to the girls necessarily. She felt bad because she was betrayed by the system that promised her that as long as they followed the rules, they would protect her. And that's what I imagine someone like Oaks would be like, is he would imagine himself as someone who has been appointed by God to preach his message unapologetically, to enact his policies unapologetically, and
Mm.
strongly believing that this is the good thing to do, regardless of the impact. Just as you said, policy, not people. And
Yeah.
people like that are very, very interesting to observe and very interesting to actually see how they lead these kind of situations. It never really ends how do I say this? It's never really a happy ending for these type of people though, because they a lot of the time there is a lot of backlash that is received from multiple fronts, from his own followers, from other people, from even his most trusted people. At some point in his time, might realize that maybe, just maybe, he was wrong about what God wanted him to do. But who
Yeah.
knows? I don't know what's gonna happen. But I'm just
Mm.
saying that it just reminded me of that character. I find those characters very interesting. They are usually very zealous, very honest,
Mm-hmm.
very,
Yeah.
very down to the book. And a lot of the time, you probably may not even find some underneath scandals about them. And I'm not saying that there isn't any scandal about President Oz. I don't know the guy. I hope there
Mm-hmm.
isn't, because I don't want
Mm-hmm.
harm to befall anybody. But
Mm.
if there is, I would be very surprised, on the contrary, because people like that are usually, honestly, behind the scenes, down to the book. Just as you said, even at home, would be down to the book with his own children and with his own wife and with his own household. So anyway, good luck, Mormon members,
Yeah.
because this you're in for a new ride,
Yeah.
and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah. It is. It's like buckle up, people, because now we've got Oaks, and like I said, his legacy is mainly to go after these people, and in a time when we're so divided, and the LGBTQ community is quite vulnerable, and I have so many friends in that space that I worry about and that I care deeply for,
Mm,
and I hate this rhetoric, and it breaks my heart that we haven't come further.
mm,
I had the privilege earlier this year. So there's an event called World Pride, and there's Pride that happens in the month of June all over the world, all over the country. But World Pride is something kind of like the Olympics, where different
wow.
cities bid to have World Pride in your city. And this year,
Okay.
World Pride was given to Washington, D.C., and I was able to
Cool.
volunteer up there and get to see and be on the ground floor of some of that, and it was very
How was that?
inspiring. It was inspiring. It was heartbreaking. It was something that I wish that I could fully understand.
Hmm.
But I'm a woman of privilege, and I'm a woman that hasn't had to deal with my sexuality falling outside of the cultural and societal and
Hmm.
even these religious norms. And I've had that luxury. And
Hmm.
I feel like had I have I not engaged on the journey that I'm currently on, I don't think that I ever probably would try to understand the perspective of my fellow travelers who happen to be in the margins. And I will say that as I've left this damn this past life of mine and have started going on this new journey, I think my level of empathy and compassion and wanting to truly understand the plight of my fellow travelers, I've taken that on because it's important to me, because I have realized that I do have a lot of privilege, and I want to extend all that I can of myself to help these people that are on the margins. And even having been approached by the local organization down here in Richmond to lead a group for the LGBTQ specifically who are leaving high demand religions. I remember when that first happened, I was like, why are you asking me? I do not present in the LGBTQ space. That's not, and they didn't care. They just wanted a group leader that had some experience in this to be able to provide much needed care in a time when these religions are doubling down and are really polarizing people. And yeah, so I just genuinely wish more for the next generation. And I don't think Oakes is going to be the man to do that. And I think he's actually probably going to cause a lot more harm. And I genuinely hope that more lives aren't lost because of it and more families aren't at odds with each other or broken or all the things that we talked about. And I genuinely hope that I hope for better, but history has taught me that that's unlikely. But that's why people like you and me have to keep calling out the harm. And we need to keep advocating for those that don't have voices. And that will be what I try to live and strive for at whatever cost it may come to me. So there you
Beautifully said.
go.
Ali, you have such a big heart and you wear your heart on your sleeve, and it shows
Sadly, yeah.
in the way you speak and how passionate and kind you are. Like, the world needs more people like you, and I'm really grateful to know you as a friend.
Oh,
And
thanks.
the group that you host for the LGBTQ and other groups that obviously you host with me as well,
Yeah.
there's just something in you clearly that kindness is a lot of the time people need, and especially at this time, for the LGBTQ, where it's very, very polarizing in the States right now.
Hmm.
Kindness and empathy and understanding is what you're offering, and that's what is needed. And there's no one that I trust best to deliver this kind of message.
I just feel that I've just seen so many lives being torn apart over this, and I just think it's so ridiculous. I mean, we have one life to live. Live and let live, please.
Mm.
Just enough. If does it really pain a person that much to use different pronouns? I mean, until we know who somebody is, we're always talking about, the police officer, they, them, and then we find out that they're female or male, and then we give more specific pronouns. Who cares? If it saves a life, use the goddamn pronouns that they want. If it saves a life, let them present and dress however they want to. Life is just too, like, worry about what's going on in your bedroom. Like, honestly, why are we policing people in this way? If they're not causing any harm, let them be. And see how much beauty they add to the world. And that's why the rainbow flag is a rainbow, because there's so much color in life. There's just so many different shades and hues, and that's what makes it beautiful. And how ridiculous we can go back to 1978 to think that Black people weren't considered part of the beautiful tapestry that is this experience on earth. And my own family, yes, granted, I'm the only female in my family, but it's so diverse just in how we're made up. And I welcome that and I want that. And I wish people could understand how much more beautiful their lives could be if they weren't letter of the law and were more,
Mm.
just really just embracing of everybody and everything, and see what they can learn from other people and their experiences. And that just isolating yourself to your own is such a disservice
Mm.
to yourself, and really just putting your head in the sand and in ignorance. And I don't know. And I fall prey to it too. There's some things that I don't understand, like baseball. And and so I have to either choose to be like, yeah, well, it doesn't impact me, so therefore I'm not gonna, educate myself, or I take it upon myself and I try to figure out what the dynamics of the game are and what makes so many people interested in it and why and all those things. So,
You imagine a world like where I come from in Ghana, where the majority of the sports that we actually enjoy are limited to football, golf,
okay.
basketball. And when I say football, I mean the correct football, which Americans would say soccer. But
Soccer.
it is football because, for the sake of words, foot and ball. And that is what we enjoy. Now, it would be crazy if we had a world where, given a world like that, where we only had these limited choices of sports that we enjoy, anyone that was Ghanaian that enjoyed baseball would be isolated from his family and casted out as someone who was doing bad because they just were drawn
Mm.
to baseball. And if only they could just choose to not enjoy baseball and just enjoy the soccer that we all enjoy, the world would just be a better place. And therefore, we will make
Yeah.
policies in the laws to say that we are going to ban all baseball's TV channels, and anybody that enjoy baseball will be called certain names and would be casted out of their family and even imprisoned because that is what they are loving something or they are watching something that actually divides the country, because a lot of people in the country doesn't enjoy baseball. But if only they just enjoy soccer, that would actually bring the nation together, because most of the people love baseball. So that is out of the love of our hearts, we are going to outcast people that love baseball. See, isn't that crazy? Isn't it? Maybe it's not crazy at all. Maybe we should do it. Hey, maybe we should do it. If someone loves a different sports to you, isolate yourself from them, because why would you love a different sports than I do? It's a crazy world, isn't it? Wow. Anyway, I don't wish for such a world. The same way I don't wish for anybody that loves or is drawn to a certain way of life is seen as wrong.
Yeah.
That is a very weird concept to me. Now, being someone who has come from religion, just as Ali has, there is this sense of comfort, or how do I say it? This comforting illusion that I can live in, that whole idea of, as long as it does not affect me, as long as it does not affect my family, and as long as it does not affect my immediate comfort, I don't care about it really. So you might be a Mormon listening to this and it does not affect you at all. And you were like, oh, what are these guys talking about? Let live and let live. What are you talking about? Only heterosexuality is the right way because you happen to be heterosexual. Let me just
That's
put this
right.
example to you. What if you lived in a world where heterosexuality was actually made illegal? In fact, the world became so overpopulated that having a child was actually harmful to the world and was
Mm.
seen as illegal, and therefore heterosexuality was banned across the world, and therefore your attraction to a woman or to a man was made illegal. How do you feel?
Yeah.
So the whole argument as to heterosexuality is natural because it makes babies, I know it's very primitive and barbaric argument. I get it. I get why you make that argument. But what if, just what if, making babies at some point in our human journey becomes actually a detrimental to the human population? Well, then heterosexuality becomes legal. Do you think God has a say in that? Would God all of a sudden becomes anti-heterosexual, and would that be His word all along? Or maybe you have the inability to imagine this hypothetical question. But maybe I'm just overthinking this. But I'll just pose this question to you. What if your existence was illegal? Would you choose to be homosexual then? Would that choice come to you very easily? Would you all of a sudden make homosexuality the right choice? Your whole church, your whole family is homosexual, and you are the heterosexual one, and you are outcast. And if only you go through our conversion therapy to become homosexual, then
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
you become accepted and loved. And in fact, it's the loving thing to outcast you because you happen to be attracted to boobs and jiggly things like I am. Anyway,
All right. Well, there you have it, folks.
thank you very much, Ali. You
Of
are
course.
amazing in bringing this information to
No,
us. Um, one
I.
one message in this podcast: brace yourself if you are in a Mormon church. If you are nervous as a Mormon member, you are free to express your fear in the comment sections. You are absolutely
Yes,
welcome.
please. I
Please do
would
that.
love actually for this conversation to keep going because for me, I'm removed from it now. It doesn't really impact me because I no longer subscribe to that, but I would love for anybody that's even in it or adjacent to it or has family in it or how this impacts you. Because, yeah, the next little while, as the pattern we've seen go down the line historically, is that as soon as a new prophet gets in, it's finally their moment to enact policies and procedures and revelations that they've been wanting to for the past 40 years, ever since they became an apostle. I mean, think about it.
Wow.
He became an
Wow.
apostle in 1984.
Hmm.
That's the year I was born. That's 41 years ago. So
Okay.
for 41 years, he's been biding his time, and now he gets to be prophet, and now he gets to call the shots, and anything he says can be deemed from God because he has that mantle. He has so much power, and he's coming into being a prophet when the church is at its pinnacle of wealth. They are the richest organization on the planet. So he has that at his disposal. The church has been known to back politically things like Proposition 8, which came out in California, and the church put lots of money around that, which was, I believe, a policy that was going to be enacted in the state of California that was going to keep marriage only between a man and a woman. And the church has been known, for coming out politically when it comes to that. And this is his jam. He loves the law and he does not care for homosexuals and the LGBTQ community. So, yeah, buckle up, Buttercup, because the next little while is going to be a ride.
Imagine that being your dating profile. He just does not like gay people. That's just Oaks. That's how he is. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
again,
Good luck,
Ali,
everyone.
good luck, guys. And thank you very much, Ali. Much love, much respect for
Absolutely.
all of this that you do.
And people, you're not alone. We're here. Write in the comments, subscribe, let other people know about us if you feel like you want to share us. We are happy to continue discussing these things and any thoughts that you may have, we're here to explore with you. So, yeah, we're a community. So you're not
Okay.
in it alone.
Yes, I
All
agree.
right. Until next time. Thank you. Bye,
Goodbye,
everyone.
guys. Have a good day.
Bye.